Be careful! A deafening roar came from the group of Jun family virtuosos. The roar contained the might of the great path, and it seemed to be an attempt to break apart the music rhythm attack. The formless sound waves could shatter spiritual souls. They caused the entire space to morph into lethal ripples of rhythmic sorcery, which were a huge threat to any practitioner below the high-level Renhuang stage. In fact, the ripples were so powerful that they could instantly kill anyone who was below the high-level Renhuang stage. Be careful! A deafening roar came from the group of Jun family virtuosos. The roar contained the might of the great path, and it seemed to be an attempt to break apart the music rhythm attack. The formless sound waves could shatter spiritual souls. They caused the entire space to morph into lethal ripples of rhythmic sorcery, which were a huge threat to any practitioner below the high-level Renhuang stage. In fact, the ripples were so powerful that they could instantly kill anyone who was below the high-level Renhuang stage. Oing! A level 8 practitioner strode towards Yi Futian with a hum. The practitioner exuded a terrifying pressure, and ripples of sound waves crashed towards Yi Futian and impacted his spiritual soul. He stared at Yi Futian and noticed that runes wound around Yi Futian's body, as though he were a Buddha. A huge halo of a Buddha also appeared in the skies above him. A few moments ago, Yi Futian absorbed the power from the cliff face and inherited the wisp of will of the great path that was left on the cliff face. Specifically, the cliff face contained the tyrannical will of the great path of the Vajra demon-slaying rhythm. This will of the great path integrated straight into the attacks that he comprehended, so his attacks could now directly threaten any level 7 practitioner and even affect level 8 virtuosos. The practitioner lifted his palm out in front of him and grasped the empty space in front of him. In the skies appeared a huge hand that covered the sky and the sun. It grasped at Yi Futian across the space. A loud sound echoed out, making the attack seem indomitable. However, right at this moment, Beigong Ao, who was dispirited for a moment just now, strode out. He unleashed a deadly blade of thunder in front of him. With a loud crack, the broadsword will of the thunder slashed across the sky, and the large palm was cut in half. "I'll hold him back," the virtuoso who attacked coldly announced. Stepping in empty space, the sound of unleashing the great path echoed out. He lifted both palms in front of him, and instantly the space became a great path domain with himself at the center of the domain. Beigong Ao was trapped in this space. The great path domain was comprised of bright, ancient mountains. They circled Beigong Ao's body and sealed the space around. It was as though they were not on the eastern deity island, but were in an isolated mountain range. The practitioner did not seal Yi Futian with Beigong Ao, because he was afraid that he could not deal with the two of them alone. On Yi Futian's side, there was only one level 8 virtuoso, and that was Beigong Ao. On their opponent's side, however, there were 3 virtuosos at the same level. As long as they could keep Beigong Ao engaged, the other virtuosos could easily kill Yi Futian. Among the other 2 level 8 virtuosos, one was protecting Jun Qiuyan, while the other stepped forward and stood on the air above Yi Futian. In the vicinity were also various other Renhuangs positioned throughout the space. The Renhuangs were mostly at the 7th and 6th levels. They emitted monstrous will might, and their auras were terrifying. Anyone who was below the 6th level did not dare get close to Yi Futian. This was because the Vajra demon-slaying rhythm posed a threat to any level 6 Renhuang, and could even kill them. The level 8 virtuoso walked out, and came to the space above Yi Futian's head. He emitted a monstrous aura while his body glittered golden. In the skies above, a golden glow filled the heavens, as though he were going to create an incomparably exquisite golden painting. A loud sound permeated the space. Giant, endlessly long golden stone pillars appeared in the skies. Horrifying drawings were carved into each golden stone pillar. The pillars covered the entire sky. Boom! The air shook violently for a moment, and the huge, golden pillars hammered down from the skies and planted themselves into the 8 cardinal points. With a deafening sound, the golden stone pillars around Yi Futian sealed the area around him. The golden light emitted by the stone pillars fused into one body and created a barrier that isolated the region. Under Yi Futian's feet, the golden light morphed into a golden drawing. The level 8 virtuoso formed hand seals in the air, and the drawing continuously changed its form. Eventually, it morphed into a giant golden dragon. The dragon twisted its way up. In front of the massive size of the dragon, Yi Futian seemed to be especially minuscule. "Kill him," the level 8 virtuoso coldly ordered. The giant dragon flew towards Yi Futian with the full intent to kill him. It dived towards Yi Futian, extending its sharp golden claws that seemed to be able to tear apart even the space of the great path. Its dominating might was indeed terrifying. A master of matrix methods. Yi Futian raised his head upwards to look at the virtuoso in the air. This was a golden matrix of the great path, and the giant dragon was born from within this matrix. In the distance, Shangguan Qiuye naturally knew the identity of the virtuoso who attacked. This practitioner had a very high status in the Jun family. He was an extremely powerful alchemist who could carve grand metal elemental matrices. He had immense strength and was held in high regard by the Jun family. He was also respectfully known as Master Yan. How could Yi Futian even hope to defend himself against the attacks from such a powerful figure? Furthermore, in the face of such a high level of alchemy, even Yi Futian's rhythmic sorcery attacks were useless. It was because of this reason that his opponent sent Master Yan to deal with Yi Futian. Yi Futian's body emitted a bone-chilling whistling of sword blades. The will of the sword surrounded his body, and his entire body seemed to morph into an infinitely sharp sword. Oin! The glare of sword blades suddenly shone with a hum, and Yi Futian's body shot like an arrow through the space. When the dragon's sharp claws were about to clamp down on him, his body ducked to the side and continued speeding away, disappearing in an instant. "You can't escape," Master Yin coldly shouted. The golden stone pillars that stood between the heavens and the earth emitted a light that morphed into a light barrier, sealing all possible paths to the air above. It seemed like Yi Futian was going to be trapped behind this barrier. After all, not even the great path's spatial powers could break through the barrier. A divine sword appeared in Yi Futian's hands and shot out towards the light barrier. When the sword tip impacted the light barrier, a terrifying ripple rolled outwards. The light barrier seemed to solidify, and on its surface, lines of runes appeared. They sealed the entire space, seemingly wishing to trap and kill Yi Futian within this golden domain. Simultaneously, on Yi Futian's body appeared a streak of incomparably powerful will of the sword. This will of the sword flowed into the divine sword. A column of divine light appeared, and it pierced into the skies, scattering the clouds. Crack! The crisp sound echoed out. Long cracks appeared on the light barrier, and then like a spiderweb, it broke up into pieces bit by bit. Master Yin narrowed his eyes at the scene that unfolded before him. At the moment the light barrier shattered, accompanying the loud sound that echoes out, a deadly beam of light shot through the clouds and came flying straight towards him. Dong! A sound akin to the voice of the Buddha reverberated out and attacked his divine soul. Master Yin felt his divine soul trembling violently for a moment. A metallic golden Buddha appeared in his mind, and in front of him, Yi Futian also seemed to morph into a Buddha. Of course, he knew that this was not reality. Rather, when the will of the great path was strong enough, an illusion could be formed. What he saw was indeed formed from the great path. He felt a tinge of fear. His palms slammed downward simultaneously. In that instant, the exquisite golden drawing shone and pressed down towards Yi Futian. In the airspace below, 1,000 sword silhouettes appeared. The moment that they reached him, they merged into one sword. Boom! A loud sound echoed out. The divine sword actually shattered the drawing. A terrifying sword glow instantly swallowed up the sky and expanded outwards. Even though a golden light barrier shrouded Master Yan's body, cracks appeared in the light barrier under Yi Futian's will of the sword's persistent attacks. Master Yan exploited the force of the impact to retreat up into the skies swiftly. How strong is he? The people around were shocked. The attack that he unleashed was so devastating that it could force a level 8 virtuoso to retreat in fear. He possesses the sword will from the sword peak, and he also infused the will of the great path inherited from the cliff face into his attacks. Seeing Yi Futian's attacks, Helian Yu instantly understood the source of his strength. It seemed like Yi Futian had gained a lot from the two opportunities of the great path that he encountered, and his gains were very clearly shown in this fight. In the instant that his sword strike landed, Yi Futian's body disappeared. In the skies, an elegant trail appeared, and behind that emerged streaks of sword silhouettes. Some distance away, several Renhuang's expressions turned to shock. They all felt a terrifying ripple of rhythmic sorcery coursing towards them, attacking their divine souls directly. Right after that, they saw a glaring sword glow. "Be careful!" Master Yin shouted in an attempt to shake them awake from their shock paralysis. Alas, the sword sliced across, and the sound of blades cutting into flesh echoed out. It seemed like several Renhuangs were simultaneously slain, even though they were separated physically. There did not even seem to be a time delay between their deaths. The explosion of the fusion of two types of attacks was utterly devastating. Anyone who was not a high-level Renhuang would not be able to withstand even a single strike. Master Yin stepped outwards in an attempt to track and kill Yi Futian. However, he saw Yi Futian's body turn into an afterimage. His body appeared in front of a level 7 divine will high-level Renhuang. The high-level Renhuang glanced at Yi Futian, and he too saw a metallic golden Buddha. A terrifying rhythmic attack struck him, and it was as though a ceaseless stream of Buddhist symbols entered his mind. The low, reverberating voice of Buddha echoed around in his mind, causing his divine soul to tremble. "Don't be affected by the sound," Master Yin shouted again. The expression on the level 8 virtuoso standing beside Jun Qiuyan also changed slightly. He did not expect Yi Futian's Vajra demon-slaying rhythm to be so strong that it could directly affect a high-level Renhuang. He inherited the will of the great path from the cliff face, which is the reason behind the unnaturally terrifying power behind his Vajra demon-slaying rhythm, the level 8 virtuoso told Jun Qiuyan, who was standing behind him. Just as he finished speaking, he saw another sword strike. The divine wheel of the level 7 virtuoso surged in power. It was a humongous ancient bell. With an angry roar, he charged forward. The giant ancient bell emitted a shocking pressure that permeated the space around it. Yi Futian's flight left an elegant endless arc. He was moving so fast that it was difficult to spot his true physical body. The sword silhouettes seemed to be elongated. The divine wheel of the great path seemed to be frozen in midair. The crowd saw a ray of sword glare cut through the great path's power and shot straight for Yi Futian's opponent. Splish! The way of the sword is boundless. As though he disregarded all physical distances, Yi Futian's silhouette appeared behind his opponent with his back facing the level 7 virtuoso. In the next instant, the level 7 virtuoso was reduced to nothing more than powder and faded away under Sword Chi's strength. The level 7 high-level Renhuang was slain with a single strike. In the vast space, all the Renhuangs could not help but feel an intense tremble deep in their hearts. Their fear of a low-level Renhuang actually paralyzed them. While it might seem like a horrible joke, it was in fact happening right at that moment. A low-level Renhuang was committing an unbridled massacre of middle-level Renhuang and high-level Renhuang. Shangguan Chuya looked at Yi Futian's silhouette and did not know what to think. It was no wonder that the bastard thumbed his nose at her. Not even in her wildest dreams would she have expected him to have inherited the will of the great path after the cliff face shattered. His true combat strength was also far more terrifying than anything she had expected. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Many virtuosos gathered from a distant area. They were all drawn in by the battle that was taking place, and they were all observing the fight. Thereafter, they saw Yi Futian facing an entire group of renhuangs alone. Many virtuosos gathered from a distant area. They were all drawn in by the battle that was taking place, and they were all observing the fight. Thereafter, they saw Yi Futian facing an entire group of renhuangs alone. Who is this white-haired renhuang? Some people contemplated silently. They were surprised by how strong he was. The person Yi Futian was facing appeared to be virtuosos from the Jun family of the Penglai continent. They all seemed to be shaken by this one person. At this point, Yunja's face also let out a puzzled expression. This fight seemed to be very similar to the one that happened in the Penglai deity region, where not only did Yi Futian stay alive, but he even managed to counterattack and kill several virtuosos. It was happening once again at this moment at this place. Even a level 8 virtuoso could not beat him. Furthermore, Yi Futian's strength caused the level 8 virtuoso guarding Jun Qiuyan to be extremely wary. He was worried that Jun Qiuyan would be killed with a piercing strike from Yi Futian. After all, considering the ability that Yi Futian had shown, this possibility was very real. Thus, the guard did not dare to be careless. The other level 8 virtuoso was still engaged in a tough fight with Beigong Ao. Furthermore, it seemed that Beigong Ao was dominating the fight. This practitioner from an insignificant unknown continent could actually pressurize an elder from the Jun family. However, they also sensed that a thunder treasure had merged into Beigong Ao's body. This caused him to be more familiar with the great way of thunder, and thus more terrifying. The great path's chaotic flow ran amok between heaven and earth, but no one tried to interfere with the fight. They were all rather wary of Yi Futian. It was just moments ago that several renhuangs, including a level 7 high-level renhuang, died at Yi Futian's hands. This caused them to be very wary of Yi Futian. While no one from the onlookers did anything, Yi Futian did not stop. He turned around in the air, emitting a seemingly holy light of the Buddha. With the deep hum of the Buddha's voice resonating outwards, Yi Futian seemed like a real-life golden Buddha in the eyes of the onlookers. At the same time, Yi Futian swung the divine sword in his hand. The strand of sword will inherited from the sword mountain, which was infused into the sword, was fully unleashed. At that moment, the blade of light pierced through the clouds. If you are still alive after this strike, you can leave. As Yi Futian finished speaking, a Buddhist voice of the great path resonated between heaven and earth, as though it were the roar of a golden Buddha. The formless rhythmic ripples cascaded throughout the boundless space, causing everyone to feel an aggressive attack on their divine souls. In the next moment, Yi Futian's body disappeared from where he stood. The onlookers only saw numerous silhouettes appearing in place of his original body. Every silhouette was in the shape of Yi Futian's true body. These silhouettes flew in different directions. At first, they moved slowly, but in a short period of time, the number of silhouettes increased, and the will of the sword became stronger too. There seemed to be tens of thousands of sword clones scattered all through the heavens and earth in the blink of an eye, covering every possible position. "Defend!" roared the level 8 renhuang beside Jun Qiuyan. His comrades seemed to be put into a trance by the Buddhist voice of the great path, and he wanted to shock them awake. They were still under the attack of rhythmic sorcery. With the addition of the lethal sword technique, how could any normal renhuang hope to stand against the simultaneous attacks? Yi Futian's shadow clones gradually moved faster, giving off a very mysterious feeling. In a short while, each silhouette morphed into a beam of light, and it was as though they had merged into the blade of light. Many people saw an elegant blade of light cutting an arc through the air in front of them, and streaks of blood-red light emitted right after. All the virtuosos were scrambling to gather the great path's powers to counter the incoming attack. However, when the blade of light sliced across, it cut directly through space. The blade of light sliced without resistance through the space of the great path, and the sound of blades cutting through flesh continuously echoed out. Thereafter, the tens of thousands of sword shadows merged into one, and Yi Futian's silhouette once again appeared where he last stood, as though he had never moved away from that spot. The vast space turned calm once again. A renhuang was standing among the crowd. His pupils were dilated, He was glaring at Yi Futian. Between his brows appeared a line of blood. "No!" he roared once. And in the next instant, his body was pulverized by the will of the sword. At the same time, the sound of popping and puffing continued to echo. The silhouettes of numerous renhuangs seemed to be crushed into powder. They were all killed. At that moment, there were not many renhuangs who remained standing in midair. One of them stood in his original position. He was shrouded by a golden bell, which was some implement. Fissures appeared along the surface of the ancient bell. Then it exploded into dust. The renhuang stood in midair, his arms slightly shaking. His eyes were filled with terror as he looked at Yi Futian. Was this really a low-level renhuang? He killed nearly all the renhuangs with merely a thought. Yi Futian stretched out his palm and raised the sword in his hand, pointing with the tip of the divine sword. The renhuangs who were still alive remembered Yi Futian's words. If they could survive his strike, they were allowed to leave. Yi Futian gave them a chance to live. A level 6 middle-level renhuang retreated so quickly his body became a smudge. He turned around and left without looking at Yi Futian. Neither did he glance at Jun Qiuyan. He was not a member of the Jun family. He was merely hired to follow Jun Qiuyan onto the eastern deity island to obtain any relics of the Great Path. Unexpectedly, such a strong formation had been decimated to such a sorry state by Yi Futian. He was very fortunate to have managed to survive. Anyone who was below a high-level renhuang stage could not survive under Yi Futian's attacks. If he didn't leave now, he would only be waiting for his death. Forgive this old man for his incompetence. A level 7 high-level renhuang spoke in the direction of Jun Qiuyan, and then retreated, no longer wanting to be part of this. The death of the high-level renhuang previously had taught him a lesson. He also saw that Beigong Ao had managed to dominate his opponent completely. Even these 3 level 8 practitioners may not be able to deal with Beigong Ao and Yi Futian. Cultivating was not easy. If he could not obtain any opportunities to further his cultivation on the Great Path, there was no need to die here either. Very soon, most of the virtuosos left. In this space, there were only a small number of people remaining. They were Jun Qiuyan, the 3 level 8 virtuosos, 2 level 7 virtuosos, and Yi Futian and Beigong Ao. The 2 level 7 virtuosos were the direct descendants of the Jun family, so naturally they couldn't leave. Among the 3 level 8 virtuosos, 2 were members of the Jun family, while Master Yin was a guest of the Jun family, who had been invited to accompany Jun Qiuyan. Yi Futian's glance swept towards Master Yan's direction, and said, "You are a level 8 matrix master, and yet you still take orders from Jun Qiuyan?" Master Yin looked at him, and heard Shengguan Qiuya say from afar, "His name is Master Yin. He isn't actually a member of the Jun family. Rather, he is their guest. He is a master of alchemy matrices." As she finished speaking, she said to Master Yin, "Master Yin, Jun Qiuyan is an extremely stubborn and arrogant man. He doesn't care about his own cultivation, yet he keeps trying to kill Renhuang Yi. Everything that happened here is because of his personal vengeance against Yi Futian. It is not worth it for you to follow or defend him. How about you join our Shengguan family as a guest?" Yi Futian glanced at Shengguan Qiuya. This woman was shrewd enough to exploit this chance to poach people. "We don't have any grudges between us, so if you are willing to let go right now, I can pretend that nothing had happened. Otherwise, even if you are at the 8th level, you might still not be able to leave the Eastern Deity Island alive," Yi Futian said. His tone was extremely arrogant. He asserted that Master Yin, who was at the 8th level of cultivation, may not leave the Eastern Deity Island alive. This was incomparably haughty. Of course, he definitely had the right to be this conceited. In the short exchange between them just moments ago, Master Yin knew that Yi Futian could use the will of the Great Path that was left on the cliff face. With this inherited will of the Great Path, Yi Futian could already stand against a level 8 virtuoso. Furthermore, apart from the Vajra demon-slaying rhythmic will of the Great Path, he also inherited a terrifying wisp of will of the sword. As long as he failed to kill Yi Futian could join hands with Beigong Ao to slay them in return. Master Yin furrowed his brows, glanced at Yi Futian, and said, "Even if your talent is unrivaled to be this arrogant, don't you think you're taking this old man a little too lightly?" Master Yan, this entire incident is caused by Jun Qiuyan. He already wanted to kill Yi Futian, and still wants him to be polite? Shangguan Qiuya said. Under such a contrast, shouldn't it be easy for you to see what kind of a person Jun Qiuyan is? Shut up, Jun Qiuyan rebuked from afar. His expression was quite gloomy. Indeed, he had utterly failed this time. Jun Qiuyan, you implicated so many virtuosos and caused the deaths of so many renhuangs. If you aren't a coward, then stop hiding behind others, step out and fight Yi Futian yourself, and take some responsibility, Shangguan Qiuya sarcastically said. How could Jun Qiuyan possibly come out? Yi Futian could slay him with a single stroke of his sword. Master Yin quietly watched everything. Normally, Jun Qiuyan was very respectful to him. He also put in the effort to cultivate, and he didn't lack talent either. However, it was impossible to clearly see a person for who he is without any contrast. Master Yin was more or less aware of the conflict between Jun Qiuyan and Yi Futian. He knew that it started with the trade at the Penglai Deity Lake. About this incident, Jun Qiuyan was way too incapable compared to Yi Futian. In fact, it could be said that Jun Qiuyan couldn't even be compared to Yi Futian. I was entrusted this job, so naturally I can't betray their trust, Master Yin said to Yi Futian. If you can defeat this old man, I will back off. What a job you have taken, Yi Futian sarcastically replied. His divine sword was in the air, glowing with divinity brightly. Being entrusted this job, if you defeat me, you will take my life, but if I defeat you, you still want to live? Master Yan's expression became heavy. You are a level 8 virtuoso, and you want to challenge a level 3 Renhuang? Yi Futian continued. How dare Master Yin even seriously expect him to accept such a deal? Yi Futian looked at the battlefield that Beigong Ao was on, his divine sword emitting an infinitely bright divine glow. Even though he had inherited a will of the great path, it was still tough to deal with a level 8 practitioner. However, it would also be difficult for his opponent to kill him. In that case, he could only cooperate with Beigong Ao and kill them all one by one. Master Yen, Renhuang Yi did not speak wrongly. You accepted Jun Qiuyan's request to kill Yi Futian. If you aren't willing to let it go, one of you must die. How can you even hope to settle this peacefully? Shangguan Qiuya continued. If Master Yen refuses to let this go, then the Shangguan family can only interfere with this fight. Master Yin narrowed his eyes and glanced at Shangguan Qiuya. Shangguan Qiuya raised her head and met his gaze with a cold expression. She did not even try to conceal her threat in her words. If he did not agree to let go of this, the Shangguan family would join in the fight against his side. At that rate, they would have no chance of victory. If he lost, he would lose his life as well. Shangguan Qiuya, are you trying to stir up conflict between our two families? Jun Qiuyan spoke in an icy tone. This Shangguan Qiuya was too scheming. Under such circumstances, Master Yin was trapped in a catch-22. However, he was more likely to retreat. If he did so, he would be severing all ties with the Jun family, weakening the Jun family's power. In addition to that, Yi Futian was still at odds with Jun Qiuyan and his followers. She wanted the Jun family to be completely wiped off the face of the Eastern Deity Island. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Shangguan Shuya glanced at Jun Xiuyan. Their two families already held pretty deep grudges against one another. Previously, Jun Xiuyan also did not hold back when he was attacking them. Shangguan Shuya glanced at Jun Xiuyan. Their two families already held pretty deep grudges against one another. Previously, Jun Xiuyan also did not hold back when he was attacking them. In that case, since such a wonderful opportunity presented itself, she was surely going to use it. She would not kill anyone from the Jun family herself, let alone even touch Jun Xiuyan. However, even if she didn't act, Yi Futian would act in her stead. At this point, all she needed to do was to separate Master Yin from the Jun family. As long as he could comprehend how challenging it would be to continue fighting against Yi Futian, and thus retreat, Yi Futian and Beigong Ao could deal with the remaining virtuosos. Yunjia, who wasn't standing too far away from Shangguan Shuya, also stared at her and blandly said, "Shangguan, it isn't too appropriate for you to interfere, don't you think so? So what you are saying is you also want to interfere in this and target Ren Huangyi?" Shangguan Shuya rebuked. Yunjia narrowed his eyes slightly. He could also see how powerful Yi Futian was. If the Yun family also acted, perhaps they could stop Yi Futian. However, Shangguan Shuya was also a variable. If she also decided to participate in the fight, the battle might be difficult to predict. His silhouette stood in the space, observing the virtuosos in front of him. His eyes showed that he was contemplating what he should do. Given the circumstances in front of him, he hesitated. Should he act? He felt a chill in his heart. The Jun family now could be said very clearly defeated that whatever if he acted against said was the truth, the lives of the Yin family would be all at stake. For now, the Jun family too many that Master Yin made. The entire family had a pretty decent amount of resources on this trip. It was ultimately a relationship based on individual profits and gains. Level 8 practitioners when it came to his own interests, this time, especially apart from a chance for him to further his cultivation from this conflict, was also the family's way of testing him. For this previously, he had completely underestimated Yi Futian. However, causing the virtuosos from the Jun family disappointment to pay an excruciating price. His performance Jun Xiuyan's eyes revealed the annihilation of nearly all the virtuosos who were from the Jun family, or otherwise hired. He failed to obtain an opportunity of the great path, how well the Jun family has treated even you all his life along. Was at stake. The Shangguan family and Jun family are both even if he managed to slay Yi Futian and walk out alive, if the Shangguan family interfered in the family would drastically fall. The Jun family would definitely declare war on the Shangguan and would no longer have the same level of authority. Do you think you are still eligible to represent the Jun family? Among the many virtuosos of the Jun family who had stepped onto the Eastern Deity Island in the Eastern Deity Island, he had by far the worst performance this time. So have you made your decision? I doubt you'll have much say left in the Jun family, who was floating in the air, Jun Xiuyan's face in a divine halo, asked Master Yin. Jun Xiuyan definitely had to be taken down. However, Master Yin was not a member of the Jun family, so there was no absolute need to deal with him. If he was willing to give up the fight, then Yi Futian could pretend that nothing had happened before. With one less level 8 virtuoso as his opponent, Yi Futian could focus more on his other opponents. All right. Master Yin sighed deeply, looked at Yi Futian, and said, "With your talent, if you don't die, you will certainly become a powerful figure in the future. I doubt even the Jun family will be your match, let alone myself. This time, I have agreed to follow the Jun family onto this Eastern Deity Island. Since a conflict has broken out between both sides, I have to stand on the side of the Jun family. I will now unleash an attack at my full power. If you are unable to take it, I will still kill you. If you manage to survive the attack, I will leave immediately, and I won't complain if you wish to seek revenge on me in the future." Yi Futian glanced at his opponent and understood Master Yan's intentions. He had no issues with this arrangement. When Master Yin finished speaking, a golden sky glow appeared above, stretching into the horizon and shrouding the entire space. A golden pattern glimmered into existence above Master Yan's head. That was his divine wheel of the Great Path, and it looked like a matrix blueprint. As the sky glow stretched into the horizon, the golden pattern covered the space. Around Yi Futian, the golden stone pillars appeared once again, sealing the entire area. Master Yan's body flashed once. He appeared near the golden pattern in the skies above. Standing in the air, he glanced down at the Yi Futian floating below him. Boom! A terrifying light radiated outward. The endless golden sky glow enveloped the entire area. Each ray of golden light seemed to morph into a golden spear. From the skies above, an uncountable number of spears rained down, the entire cascade emitting a sharp, bone-chilling, all-destroying wail. Master Yin glanced downward. With a press of his finger, the countless golden rays of light flew toward Yi Futian, burying the entire space. Where Yi Futian was, the golden light emitted by the matrix was also attacking him in a frenzy. Master Yin achieved resonance between his finger and the great path of heaven and earth. The spears whistled madly, and the golden matrix roared in an uncontrollable rage. Yi Futian emerged from the eye of the destructive storm. He emitted a terrifying cold aura, and it was as though a full moon had emerged. The will of the great path radiated outward from his body, completely covering the entire area. When the terrifying murderous attack that could bury even space itself flew toward him, it became weaker as it closed in on his body. Not only did the spears become slower, but also they seemed to be coated in snow and ice. Everyone saw the glaring golden light rays targeting Yi Futian, and he was about to be swallowed up by the devastating attack when a flurry of snow and ice swept outward, overpowering the layer of golden light. Many people let out a shocked expression. What power was this? Master Yi continued to point his finger downward. On the tip of his finger, wisps of terrifyingly strong divine light swirled around, resonating with the great path of the heavens. He inched his fingertip downward, but his lethal attack still could not even touch Yi Futian. Even though he had fully activated his divine matrix, he could feel that an absolute domain had formed around Yi Futian. Within that domain, no matter what power infiltrated, it would always be sealed by ice and destroyed by the will of the sword. The onlookers looked at the center of the divine matrix. An apocalyptic, destructive stream of power swept downward and completely buried Yi Futian. Is he dead? Many people had this thought at the same time. Jun Chuyan, too, stared intently at the spot. Such an attack had buried Yi Futian. Surely the powers of the great path of a level 8 virtuoso were sufficient to wipe out Yi Futian. Oing! Right then, Master Yin retracted his finger. Instantly, the terrifying golden divine glow cloaking his body faded away. Many people were perplexed by this. What did he mean by this? Master Yin turned around to leave. This old man isn't capable enough. As he finished speaking, the divine matrix vanished, leaving behind a white-haired silhouette. A terrifying will of the sword surrounded the silhouette. An icy cold aura also emanated from the same silhouette. Impressively, Yi Futian was still there. He lifted his head slightly. His eyes were, as always, sharp and bright. Seeing this, Jun Chuyan's heart fell. A strand of despair emanated from his dark eyes. Yi Futian could still survive even with an attack like this? How could an all-out attack from a level 8 virtuoso fail to slay a low-level Ren Huang? Boom! At this moment, a terrifying, deafening rumble echoed in the skies. Victory was decided on the other battlefield. Beigong Ao unleashed a murderous streak of lightning that pierced his opponent, causing him to tremble uncontrollably. He vomited blood unceasingly, his face a ghostly white. He lost. In this battle between level 8 virtuosos, not only did he fail to trap Beigong Ao, but also he was injured by Beigong Ao's counterattack. His domain of the Great Path collapsed into dust. Among the 3 level 8 virtuosos, one remained, while the other was defeated and sustained severe injuries. Only the level 8 virtuoso who was standing guard in front of Jun Chuyan remained unscathed. However, the tables have been turned completely. The other 2 level 7 virtuosos had absolutely no chance of winning against either Yi Futian or Beigong Ao. In fact, it could even be said that they would die for sure. Even if they joined the fight, they couldn't even stop either Beigong Ao or Yi Futian. The robe on Yi Futian fluttered, and the snow covering his body instantly disappeared. He strode forward in Jun Chuyan's direction. The level 8 virtuoso was standing guard in front, while the other 2 level 7 high-level Renhuangs took the flanks. Despite having achieved an extremely high level of cultivation, the 3 people felt that a powerful enemy was right in front of them when they faced Yi Futian. The 2 level 7 virtuosos in particular had an intense wariness in their eyes. While it might be difficult for Yi Futian to deal with a level 8 virtuoso, it would be straightforward for him to kill any level 7 Renhuang. In Jun Qiuyan's eyes, apart from a malicious glint, there was also a tinge of fear when he looked at Yi Futian. Even in his wildest dreams, he would not have expected that a practitioner from the outer continents, whom he met in the Penglai deity region, and thought to be insignificant, could now threaten his life, and possibly cause them all to die in the eastern deity island. Yi Futian stopped midair and looked at Jun Qiuyan and said, "Apart from that time in the Penglai deity region, from the start till now, you have never faced me by yourself. How pathetic." Hearing Yi Futian's words, Jun Qiuyan felt a strong wave of humiliation. Even then, he still hid behind the level 8 virtuoso, and did not dare come out, causing him to look even more pathetic. This entire scene was extremely ironic. An entourage of over 100 Renhuangs had been reduced to such a sorry state. "Do you want to come out yourself, or do I need to do it myself?" Yi Futian continued. He did not intend to kill Jun Qiuyan. There was still some use in keeping him alive. Jun Qian stared at Yi Futian without answering. The level 8 high-level Renhuang in front of him looked at Yi Futian and said, "Our little disagreement this time didn't really cause you much harm. And if we continue fighting, we will both only stand to lose. Even if you are an unrivaled prodigy, if you really continue to fight against us, you will not make it out of the Penglai continent. So how about we stop right here, and we agree to never interfere with each other's matters in the future?" Yi Futian looked at his opponent. His eyes carried a wisp of irony in them. Jun Qian stared at Yi Futian without answering. The level 8 high-level Renhuang in front of him looked at Yi Futian and said, "Our little disagreement this time didn't really cause you much harm. And if we continue fighting, we will both only stand to lose. Even if you are an unrivaled prodigy, if you really continue to fight against us, you will not make it out of the Punglai continent. So how about we stop right here? And we agree to never interfere with each other's matters in the future? Yi Futian looked at his opponent. His eyes carried a wisp of irony in them. Only now did they suggest to stop fighting and leave each other alone? How is that possible? In this fight, he had already killed so many of their renhuangs. The grudge between them had already become too deep to let go just like that. Even if they could let him go, he was not willing to let Jun Qiuyan off. Like what they said originally, it was no big deal. But since they wanted to kill him and his friends, then naturally, he had to return the favor. Don't worry. I still have some say in matters in the Jun family. You can ask the practitioners in the Punglai continent, and you will know. Since I have promised you, I definitely will make good on my word and not interfere with you in the future. The level 8 practitioner continued. He was worried that Yi Futian would still be worried that the Jun family would seek revenge when they left the Eastern Deity Island. Yi Futian, still calm, looked at this opponent and said, "If I were worried about vengeance, I could take Jun Qiuyan hostage. Why would there be a need for me to go through all this trouble? You are right. This isn't such a big deal anyway. Now, I am giving you the same chance. You can leave. I just want Jun Qiuyan." The level 8 virtuoso furrowed his eyebrows and said, "That is not possible. Even if you capture him, do you think you can walk out of Punglai continent? You need not worry." As Yi Futian finished speaking, his body emanated the will of the Great Path, and a terrifying aura shrouded the boundless space. The voice of the Buddha resounded out. The golden light of Buddha wrapped around his body. A terrifying rhythm rippled outwards and cascaded towards his opponent's divine soul. The level 8 virtuoso did not expect Yi Futian to lash out like this. He sealed his 6 senses, and the light of the Great Path shielded both him and Jun Qiuyan. He turned his gaze to Yi Futian, but saw him disappear in a flash. However, Yi Futian did not attack them, but rather flew in another direction. The level 8 virtuoso furrowed his brow and looked toward the direction in which Yi Futian flew. There, he saw Beigong Ao had once again started to pummel his opponent with an explosion of attacks. The light of lighting pierced straight through the defensive power of the Great Path. The tens of thousands of streaks of lightning morphed into blades of heavenly punishment and flew towards his opponent. "Be careful," he warned his comrade loudly. However, in the next moment, he heard a fearsome ripple rolling outwards in the skies. Beigong Ao and his opponent had already collided. The lightning of the Great Path instantly swallowed up the silhouette of Beigong Ao's opponent, and the endless lightning and thunder coiled around the region. The level 8 virtuoso resisted the attack with all his might, and at that moment, a terrifying voice of Buddha reverberated, its sound waves entering his ears and attacking his divine soul. His face turned pale, and his mouth opened in a silent scream. Zoom zoom. A sharp sound was emitted. A divine sword appeared in the air, and behind him, the thousands of sword silhouettes created by Yi Futian descended and merged into one sword that shot straight at him. He turned around and raised his hand to counterattack. The sword struck with the boundless path of the sword technique, and cracks appeared in his giant palm halo. The will of the sword dashed straight into his body. Execute. Beigong Ao once again attacked. His blade of thunder cut through the air towards his opponent's body, emitting a blinding glare. His opponent, who was already heavily injured, could not possibly defend himself against the combined attacks of the two people. His body shuddered violently, and his eyes carried an expression of despair. He looked in the direction of Jun Qiuyan, and saw that right then, the level 8 virtuoso, who was protecting Jun Qiuyan, actually turned and retreated. That man stepped straight into the space above, not caring about whether his comrade lived or died, and left straight away. A level 8 virtuoso gave up fighting and decided to flee. Oing! Back on the battlefield, the level 8 virtuoso, who was still fighting, was being torn apart by the unceasing cascade of lightning and thunder. The divine sword appeared again, and pierced straight through his body, killing him. A level 8 high-level renhuang virtuoso was executed right where he stood, and lost his life on the spot. "Let's go," Yi Futian said quickly, right after killing his opponent. His divine sword returned to him. He morphed into a flying sword and flew towards the horizon in pursuit of his last opponent. Thunder rolled like a drum. How could he let him go just like that? And lightning flashed all around. Baigong Ao's body morphed into a streak of lightning, and in an instant, he overtook Yi Futian with his superior speed. After all, he was a true level 8 divine will high-level Renhuang. Furthermore, he was well-versed in the Great Path of Thunder. Cultivating the Great Path of Thunder not only increased the destructiveness of one's attacks, but it could also greatly enhance one's speed. The speed of lightning was terrifyingly high. After mastering this great path, one could morph into lightning and cross great distances in an instant. Yi Futian's body didn't move. Rather, he sent his will of the sword ahead, whistling towards the distance. It was as fast as lightning, following closely behind the streak of lightning in front. Let's go take a look. Many people wanted to follow them to witness the end of this conflict. However, anyone who was below the level of a high-level Renhuang could not possibly catch up to them. After they left, there were still 2 level 7 high-level Renhuang from the Jun family remaining. Despite their high levels of cultivation as high-level Renhuangs, at that moment, they were completely ignored by everyone and only stood there awkwardly. They turned around and took a glance, sighing in their hearts. He had already run away. What else could they do? They could only leave. In a flash, they were gone. The 2 of them also retreated, but in the opposite direction, worried that Yi Futian would seek revenge on them. Shangguan Qiuye noticed the retreating silhouettes but did not move. Yi Futian had asked her to take care of his friends before leaving, so naturally, she would not act rashly. Shangguan Qiuye was certainly willing to be friends, or at least acquaintances, with a practitioner of such great potential. Although she had subtly made use of Yi Futian to deal with the Jun family, she was also pushing the tide of events along. Yi Futian already had intentions to deal with Jun Qiuyan, and she believed that he didn't mind either. This time, Jun Qiuyan was finished. Baigong Ao was indeed very strong, and he did not in any way pale in comparison to his opponent. The thunder of the Great Path, if anything, bestowed great speed to its user. If his opponent had been alone, he might have been able to escape. However, with the burden that he was tugging along, it was a completely different matter. After all, he had to constantly be wary of anything that could threaten Jun Qiuyan's life. Furthermore, there was still Yi Futian. Just like what he had guessed, Baigong Ao was inhumanly fast. Before his body even arrived, lightning and thunder had already descended on the area. The skies were covered in dark, ominous clouds, and lightning and thunder unceasingly struck in the direction of the level 8 virtuoso. Even though the power of the attacks could not threaten him, he had to take care of Jun Qiuyan. This is an illusory sky domain. Where do you think you can go? Baigong Ao spoke loudly as lightning blinded the skies. In the surroundings, many onlookers stared at them. Then again, they were all quite used to scenes like this. On the Eastern Deity Island, this was pretty common, and there was nothing unusual about it. The level 8 virtuoso carried Jun Qiuyan along and shot straight through the storm-filled region. He said to Jun Qiuyan, "Qiuyan, what's happened today started with you, and so only you can bear the responsibility." "Uncle," Jun Qiuyan's face froze. He looked up at the level 8 virtuoso guarding him, and his heart chilled. "Their strength is not below mine. If I bring you along, none of us can make it out of the illusory sky domain." The level 8 virtuoso continued. "After I leave, I will inform the Jun family virtuosos standing guard outside the Eastern Deity Island. Don't worry, they wouldn't dare touch you." At that moment, Jun Qiuyan knew that he was about to be abandoned. The edges of his eyes twitched, and his heart felt like it had been stabbed. How could some low-level Renhuang from an outer continent force him into such a pathetic state, where he was abandoned and handed over just like that? If anything happened to you, the family will certainly kill them and annihilate their entire clan. The family will seek vengeance for you. The level 8 virtuoso continued. Jun Qiuyan knew that since he had already said it like this, it meant that there was no possibility of turning the tables this time. Nothing could be changed. "All right," Jun Qiuyan nodded. He did not struggle, because he already knew that was no point doing that. "Just endure it and live on," the man continued. Jun Qiuyan nodded silently. Right after that, his uncle morphed into a streak of light and continued forward, while he was not brought along and was left behind. With a flash of lightning and a clap of thunder, Baigong Ao caught up and saw his opponent leaving a dazed Jun Xiuyan behind. Soon he understood that Jun Xiuyan was abandoned. His opponent knew that he would not be able to escape if he brought Jun Xiuyan along, so he eventually decided to desert Jun Xiuyan and retreat alone. Baigong Ao did not continue pursuing his opponent. After all, he was also a level 8 practitioner, so Baigong Ao was not certain that he could trap his opponent. Anyway, only Jun Xiuyan was Yi Futian's target. It should be sufficient to capture just him. He stopped in midair and glanced at Jun Xiuyan. Back when he was at the Penglai deity lake, he might have had some respect and even reverence for the Jun family of the Penglai continent. When he once again looked at his opponent now, he only felt indifference and irony. This change in attitude seemed to correspond to a change in the difference in their strength. Without him knowing, Baigong Ao had also changed. He no longer saw Jun Xiuyan as a threat, but merely found him to be rather pathetic. Yi Futian arrived quickly and saw Jun Xiuyan quietly standing there. He let out an expression of puzzlement, but his confusion lasted for only a moment. When he looked at Jun Xiuyan, his eyes carried a tinge of sympathy. "Pathetic," Yi Futian said. As he finished, his will of the sword started whirling again, twirling around his body, pointing forward. "When you leave the Eastern Deity Island, the virtuosos of the Jun family will be waiting there," Jun Xiuyan said. Before he even finished speaking, the will of the sword had already descended upon him, and a streak of sword qi pierced through his body. Jun Xiuyan let out a muffled groan. He lifted his head toward Yi Futian, with a mixture of rage and hopelessness. How could Yi Futian dare to harm him without hesitation? Swords whistled through the air, piercing through Jun Xiuyan's body continuously, wreaking havoc inside him. With a splish, Jun Xiuyan vomited blood, his aura becoming gradually weaker. He glared at Yi Futian with hatred. He could barely stand without wobbling. "The Jun family will vanquish your entire family." Jun Xiuyan spat viciously at Yi Futian as he glared at him. How dare Yi Futian destroy his cultivation? Yi Futian raised his hand, and instantly a powerful pulling force descended. Jun Xiuyan's body flew straight toward Yi Futian. Branches and leaves tangled around his body, binding him. Yi Futian then turned around and left with Jun Xiuyan in tow. The onlookers looked toward that direction. Seeing Yi Futian, they let out a puzzled expression. Someone exclaimed in shock, "That is the young master of the Jun family of the Penglai continent, Jun Xiuyan, one of the candidates for the heir of the Jun family." Many people felt a deep tremble in their hearts. The young master of the Penglai continent was crippled by someone? Furthermore, he was treated in such a manner. This caused many people to wonder, who was that youth in white? It seemed like Jun Xiuyan had offended a rather hard character, and was thus cruelly crippled. In this Eastern Deity Island, there were indeed powerful practitioners, even among the ones whom few had heard of before. Countless people looked at Jun Xiuyan, and many voices incessantly entered his ears. His face was ashen. This pain that he was suffering was worse than death. Perhaps Jun Xiuyan was the most humiliated direct descendant of a top-tier faction in the history of the Penglai continent. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1925. Toward Core Island. Chapter 1925. Toward Core Island. Yi Futian arrived back at their original battlefield with Jun Xiuyan restrained. Many people were still waiting there. Upon their arrival, the expressions on many virtuosos changed slightly. They were very shocked. Jun Xiuyan had been crippled, and his cultivation was completely destroyed. In the crowd, several people knew the origin of their grudge, and there were even some who witnessed the beginning of their dispute at the Penglai deity lake. It could be said that the conflict between the two of them was due to Jun Xiuyan's arrogance. However, at that time, everyone felt that it was nothing, as though Jun Xiuyan's arrogance was the norm and should be accepted. After that, news of Bai Mu stepping in to stop the fight between them spread, and they all thought that in the Eastern Deity Island, Yi Futian would die for sure. Many of the virtuosos did not pay close attention to something that was bound to happen, and thus nearly forgot about the entire event. No one expected that on the Eastern Deity Island, it would be Yi Futian, who completely dominated Jun Xiuyan. At this point, Jun Xiuyan was like a dog who had lost its home. He looked extremely pathetic, his aura was fragile, and it looked like there was no life in him, and he could die at any moment. It was as though he were a zombie. Setting aside the question of whether he was humiliated, Jun Xiuyan's life had practically ended prematurely. To a practitioner of his status, tortured with his cultivation stripped, there was not much meaning in living. There was no more value to his life. Perhaps apart from his closest family, no one would care if he lived or died. Jun Xiuyan was utterly finished. Even though Shangguan Xiuya had vaguely guessed the outcome, upon seeing just how pathetic Jun Xiuyan had become, she could not help but feel a ripple in her heart. Jun Xiuyan was someone who was equal in status to her. Among the next generation in the Penglai continent, he was also a powerful figure. Not only was he a disciple of a renowned family, but he also had exceptional talent, and everyone had heard of his name. No one would have expected that his fate would be this tragic. She then turned her gaze to the white-haired youth, who was dragging Jun Xiuyan. Apart from admiring Yi Futian's talent, Shangguan Xiuya was also a little wary of him. This guy was a little too callous. In fact, one could even say he was a little insane. Just how many virtuosos did he kill today? It seemed like the Jun family of the Penglai continent would forever be at odds with him, uncomfortable and certainly have him killed. As one of the top-tier factions in the Penglai continent, there was no way the Jun family would tolerate the massacre and humiliation of their members. Yi Futian did not attempt to stop him. The moment Yi Futian left the Eastern Deity Island, there would likely be a devastating battle. The Jun family standing a distance away, he did not want to make more enemies. A cold expression. He took a step forward toward Shangguan Xiuya and looked at Xia Qingyuan and the rest standing behind Shangguan Xiuya. Yi Futian spoke to Shangguan Xiuya. "Thank you very much." "No need for thanks. I didn't do much," Shangguan Xiuya replied. No one tried to attack her, so of course, she did not do anything. As she finished speaking, she telepathically told Yi Futian, "Having abused Jun Xiuyan like that, you'll probably encounter much trouble when you leave the Eastern Deity Island." "That's why I'm keeping him alive for now," Yi Futian replied. Shangguan Xiuya took a glance at the crippled Jun Xiuyan and spoke again. "A crippled Jun Xiuyan will have little value to the Jun family. Apart from his parents, likely no one else in the Jun family will be concerned about his life. It is more likely that they will care if you are dead." Yi Futian understood what she meant. The Jun family would likely have him killed. "I understand," Yi Futian replied. He only left Jun Xiuyan alive to avoid Dongyuan Pavilion from being implicated. Of course, this was not a perfect plan, and so he needed to prepare in case the Jun family was determined to kill him at all costs. Miss Shangguan can also be considered to have stood against the Jun family and threatened their people. Likely the Jun family will not forget. Furthermore, the Yunjia, who left earlier, was staring at you in a predatory manner. Shall we join hands when we leave Eastern Deity Island? Yi Futian conveyed his thoughts. Shangguan Xiuya let out a puzzled expression. Previously she had intended to make use of Yi Futian, and he seemed to have not minded. Now that it had come to this, it seemed like the two of them were alike after all. Yi Futian similarly wanted to make use of her to deal with the Jun family. The two of them were making the same calculations. Even back then, Yi Futian was already considering what to do after leaving Eastern Deity Island. Her gorgeous eyes turned to look intently at Yi Futian for a moment. This white-haired youth before her made her feel a tinge of fear. He had an unparalleled talent, and while his cultivation level was not high, his strength was extraordinary. Moreover, he was extremely callous and was quite scheming too. It would be extremely troublesome if such a person became her enemy. Jun Xiuyan was a perfect example. Previously in the Penglai deity region, Jun Xiuyan probably did not expect Yi Futian to have such great strength. It was because he underestimated Yi Futian that his men were cruelly massacred, and his cultivation stripped, thereby becoming crippled. I didn't actually lay a finger on Jun Xiuyan, or any of the Jun family members, so it doesn't count, right? Shangguan Xiuya replied. Her tone had a touch of displeasure. She did not want to be exploited by Yi Futian. Regardless of whether or not you really participated, your stance is already clear. Moreover, Miss Shengguan also said that you would help me deal with the level 8 practitioner. The Jun family will certainly know about it. Even if you don't act, do you think the Jun family will let the Shengguan family off? Yi Futian continued. Since there will be a battle sooner or later, why don't you act first? Furthermore, I am not that weak either, so certainly I can help you in some way. Shengguan Xiuye should be clear on the relationship between the two families. With Jun Xiuyan crippled, a new conflict was bound to be born between the two families. Indeed, a war among the renowned families of the Penglai continent was looming on the horizon already, and it was certainly inevitable. Even if the Shengguan family wanted to avoid it, they could not. Moreover, Yi Futian has already explained the situation clearly. If they allied with him, their strength would increase to a certain extent. Otherwise, the Jun family could eradicate Yi Futian and his group, and then come back to deal with the Shengguan family. If she thought along these lines, her choice was quite simple and straightforward. I am not in a position to make this choice, Shengguan Xiuye replied a little unhappily. No worries. Miss Shengguan can take your time to consider carefully, Yi Futian replied. He then left with Jun Xiuyan. The relic on the cliff face had already been destroyed, and this place has thus ceased to be a cultivation spot. There was no point in staying any longer. He radiated his divine consciousness outwards, and it covered the vast region. He noticed that many people were directing their divine consciousness toward him. It seemed that what happened before had captured the attention of several people. However, Yi Futian was not bothered by it. The level 8 virtuoso from the Jun family managed to escape. So naturally, news of what happened here could not be kept under wraps. Many practitioners had witnessed him breed enmity with the Jun family. What he should be considering, then, would be how he could further raise his strength on this eastern deity island. First, Jun Xiuyan was already his hostage. However, Jun Xiuyan was not as valuable as he was, and if the Jun family virtuosos were a little more cold-blooded, they could completely neglect his life. The next point of consideration was his alliance with the Shengguan family. However, it was still a question whether the Shengguan family was willing to side with him. Even if they became allies, how much effort were they willing to put in? Thus, he could not place too much hope on the Shengguan family. This was the Eastern Deity Island. If he wanted to deal with the Penglai continent's top-tier faction, the Jun family, then the best method was to borrow the strength of the factions on the Eastern Deity Island. The only problem was that it might be a little difficult to do that. As of now, he had yet to truly step onto the core island of the Eastern Deity Island. Is the entrance to the core island in that direction? Yi Futian sent his divine consciousness toward a certain direction. He noticed that the virtuosos in the illusory sky domain were flocking towards a certain direction. In that area, many had extraordinary auras. Beigong Ao followed Yi Futian's gaze. There is a rather strange land over there. It is the path that anyone must take if he wishes to reach the core island of the Eastern Deity Island. It is only through traversing that route that one can arrive at the core island of the Eastern Deity Island. However, from what I know, only an exceedingly small number of practitioners can enter the core island historically, and it is the case for every generation. It is said that anyone who enters the core island will be gifted pills of the Great Path. These are not common elixirs, but rather rare, precious ones. Furthermore, the Eastern Deity Island will actively try to have you join their ranks. Naturally, it is the same this time. Yi Futian lightly nodded his head. The Eastern Deity Island's setup to give cultivation opportunities might appear to be a selfless act, but Yi Futian did not believe so. The Eastern Deity Island was not a scared land of cultivation, so there was no need for them to spend large amounts of manpower to invite practitioners from various continents to seek cultivation on the island. Nor was there any need for them to give cultivation opportunities like that. Moreover, they even gave pills of the Great Path, which was obviously impossible. Thus, there must naturally be a motive behind Eastern Deity Island's actions. According to what Beigong Ao said, the Eastern Deity Island would try to win over those who performed exceedingly well. Did this mean that the Eastern Deity Island was plotting something? For countless years, the Eastern Deity Island had been isolating itself from the rest of the world, focused only on cultivation, avoiding all conflict in the rest of the world. They didn't even interfere in any matters in the Prunglai continent. Was it really because they were weak? Yi Futian thought that the Eastern Deity Island was merely hiding its true strength. However, its true motive was still a mystery. Let's go, Yi Futian said aloud. There were quite a few great path opportunities on the Eastern Deity Island, but he had already obtained 2 of them. If he continued to spoil the other areas, he would become a public enemy. Anyway, any more would be icing on the cake, and not much meaning to him. Vajra demon-slaying rhythm and the boundless sword were 2 extraordinarily powerful assault techniques, and these were sufficient for him. Thus, he headed in that direction towards the core island of the Eastern Deity Island. Shangguan Qiuya's eyes flashed when she noticed Yi Futian's silhouette. It seemed like this guy intended to take on the challenge of entering the core island. It wasn't easy to enter the core island, but it was certainly possible for Yi Futian to enter the realm of the core of the Eastern Deity Island. She suddenly had a thought. If Yi Futian succeeded, then the people of the Eastern Deity Island would probably not allow the Jun family virtuosos to deal with Yi Futian. If conflict also broke out between the Eastern Deity Island and the Jun family, then it would certainly be a great opportunity. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1926, Chess Game. Chapter 1926. Chess Game. A large gate connected to the core area of Eastern Deity Island lay inside the illusory sky domain. The gate was called the Eastern Deity Gate. At that moment, multiple powerful cultivators had gathered in front of Eastern Deity Gate. The Eastern Deity Gate was a gate for deities. It extended high into the sky. Clouds hung around it, creating an ethereal atmosphere. In front of the Eastern Deity Gate was a magnificent building that stood upright like a wall. Many people stood on the wall. They were looking at a giant matrix in front of the Eastern Deity Gate. The matrix was a large chessboard, and there were 36 spots on the chessboard. At that moment, 36 practitioners stood on the board, and all around each of them were many great path chess pieces hovering around. Among the 36 cultivators on the board, there were elderly middle-aged, as well as some young ones. There were men and women alike. Even though the cultivators were at different plane levels, they all stood upon the same chessboard. When Yi Futian and his group arrived, they saw many cultivators from all sides standing on the wall-like building. Everyone gazed at the chessboard in front of them. At that moment, an intense battle had just begun on the chessboard. However, the battle was not between humans, it was a clash between chess pieces. Apart from that, on the left and right of the chessboard were 9 platforms. Several people were already seated on these platforms. Each of them had an unusual sense of class and elegance. They were all remarkable and extraordinary characters. So this is the Great Path Chess. Yi Futian mumbled. He already knew what it was by the time he had arrived. A Great Path chessboard was in front of the Eastern Deity Gate. Every game required 36 participants. Every participant would get 36 Great Path chess pieces. The participants could pour their Great Path energies into every chess piece. The 36 cultivators would then battle it out in a battle royale on the Great Path chessboard. The winner would move on to the platform. There were 9 platforms. So when 9 victors emerged, another battle royale would ensue. The winner of this 9-way battle would obtain the right to step through the Eastern Deity Gate. The Eastern Deity Island also promised that every person who passed through the gate would receive a pill of the Great Path as a reward. As such, many strong personalities would come and test their strength. As long as they could win, they would be able to get their hands on an extremely valuable pill of the Great Path. It was without a doubt not a common item. This was the reputation of the Eastern Deity Island. Moreover, the winner could also reap other benefits. Yi Futian's group landed on top of the building. Gazing forward, they saw that many people also stood on top of the building like them. Also, many were subsequently arriving behind them. Many people would first try their luck in encountering a great path opportunity in the illusory sky domain before arriving here to challenge the chess game. After all, while a pill was valuable, the benefits of those great path opportunities were also incredibly helpful in increasing a practitioner's strength. So it was natural that they would not miss it. Jun Xiuyan being brought along as a captive by Yi Futian also attracted the gazes of several practitioners from the Penglai continent. The faces of people who recognized Jun Xiuyan distorted after they saw the scene. They glanced at Yi Futian, then at the person standing beside him, and noticed that it was actually the lady of the Shangguan clan, Shangguan Xiuya. Could it be that the Shangguan clan had joined hands with outsiders to fight against the Jun family? It looked like the peace on the Penglai continent was coming to an end. Did their conflict begin while they were within the territory of the Eastern Deity Island? Shangguan Xiuya caught up to Yi Futian from behind. She also wanted to see what Yi Futian would do here. She thought, with his talent, unless he encounters an extremely powerful opponent, he should be able to get through the Eastern Deity Gate easily. The chessboard is also a matrix. The moment the 36 participants step on it, 36 Great Path chess pieces will appear. You can inject your power of the Great Path into the pieces and battle against the others. Here, the gap between one's playing level is ignored. The strength and durability of every chess piece are the same. The key is the strength of the path. Of course, a person whose playing level is higher would have a more profound understanding of the Great Path. Thus, even if the chess piece would reduce the gap between playing levels, a person of a higher playing level still has some advantages, Shangguan Xiuya explained to Yi Futian. Then she continued, after defeating everyone else on the chessboard, and if the victor still has remaining chess pieces, he or she will be able to move to one of the 9 platforms on the sides and watch the remaining battles. Once the 9 platforms are filled, the next battle will take place, and decide who among the 9 would go through the East Deity Gate. To you, this shouldn't be too hard. At least the first round will be no problem. Clearly, Shangguan Xiuya was very confident with Yi Futian's strength. She had seen his strength before, and naturally, Yi Futian's path was very powerful. His battle strength was the manifestation of his power of the Great Path. Yi Futian scanned and looked at the 9 platforms. Only 2 were not yet filled. This meant that after 2 more rounds of battle, one person would obtain the right to enter the Eastern Deity Gate. At that moment, an extremely intense battle began on the chessboard. It was a chaotic battle between multiple sides. Everyone joined, and after a moment, a cultivator achieved victory and walked onto the platform. However, he did not seem all that happy. On the contrary, he seemed very solemn. His gaze moved towards a particular location, and in his eyes was fear. On the platform, a young man sat with his legs crossed. His eyes were closed as he cultivated. He seemed a class different from others. And Yi Futian also discovered that many others were also looking at him. Yi Futian looked at the man and noticed that he had seen the young man before. When he entered Eastern Deity Island, this was the young man who made the flowering tree react. Based on the guesses of many, this person most probably had an extraordinary background. Next round, said a deity standing in front of the wall-like building. She was a deity of Eastern Deity Island, and she was the host of the battles of the Great Path over there. However, after she spoke, no one seemed willing to enter the chessboard. Since there's no hope anyway, might as well give it a try, said a practitioner lightheartedly with a smile. Then he went straight onto the chessboard. After that, many others followed suit with a similar mindset and entered the round. After hearing the discussions of the people around him, Yi Futian understood why no strong or powerful character took part in this round. They are wary of someone. Shangguan Xiuya also realized it. After winning this battle, the winner would still have to battle the other 9 on the platform. So if an overwhelming character were already on the platform, the others would start to hesitate. That's right. I am afraid that everyone who joined this time is just here to take part. There are no strong characters, said an old man who was beside them. Could the elder help explain? Shangguan Xiuya asked the old man. Look at him. The old man pointed at the young man who made the flowering tree behave peculiarly and said, this person entered the chessboard and completely dominated the other cultivators with 9 chess pieces. In the 36-way battle, he used 9 pieces, and yet no one could defeat him. In the end, he managed to get on the platform with a perfect battle record of losing only 1 piece. How could someone compete with that? Using only 9 chess pieces? Shangguan mumbled lightly. The old man nodded. 36 chess pieces, and he only used 9 pieces. He did not even touch the remaining pieces. He only lost 1 piece, which means that he will have 35 pieces remaining in the subsequent battle. And up until now, all the remaining chess pieces of the other 7 on the platforms totals to 41 pieces. This means that even if they include the last guy, the 8th guy, they would still not have that many chess pieces. Do you understand now? Shangguan raised her head slightly and said, "Thank you very much." Naturally, she understood. The winner preserved his chess pieces for the subsequent 9-way battle. In the first round, the frightening thing was that he was able to sweep his opponents away with just 9 chess pieces. Moreover, he only lost 1 piece. The result was extremely daunting. Who would dare go up? No wonder many people were talking about it earlier. Taking part in the battles meant that they joined to participate. They did not bear any hopes of entering the Eastern Deity Gate. Avoiding strong cultivators was a technique. After all, many wanted to pass the Eastern Deity Gate. Naturally, no one would want to encounter such a strong opponent who would affect one's ability to get through that Eastern Deity Gate. 1 out of 36. After that, 1 out of 9. This meant that only 1 out of 324 people would enter through the Eastern Deity Gate. This was also with the least number of battles. If a person achieved victory but lost all his or her chess pieces, another group of 36 would have to hash it out again. From this, one could only imagine just how difficult it was. This time, practitioners from continents from everywhere had come to the Eastern Deity Island. No one knew the real strength of others, so it was natural to observe and learn. Futian looked toward the battle on the chessboard. It was as expected. The battle was not very exciting. It was even inferior to the previous battle. After some time, the winner was finally decided. The winner stepped onto the platform. And now 9 people stood on the platform. The Eastern Deity Island host deity looked at them and said, "Please enter the chessboard." The 9 of them walked down and landed on the chessboard. The young man, who was the prime focus of many cultivators, also opened his eyes. He got up slowly and began walking toward. Then, he landed on the chessboard. 9 people, all stood in 9 different locations. Great path chess pieces appeared subsequently and hovered around their bodies. The number of chess pieces surrounding most participants was in the single digit. Only that young man had 35 great path chess pieces hovering around him, radiating bright and pretty lights. Moreover, each of his chess pieces illuminated brighter than others. The other 8 cultivators fixed their gaze on him. They seemed to have reached an agreement as they became in sync and wanted to deal with the young man first. Otherwise, they would have no chance. "Do it," said a person. The moment he finished speaking, the 8 of them initiated their attacks. Chess pieces after pieces flew around looking for blood. Every single chess piece contained a strong and forceful great path of attack. The young man watched everything calmly. He moved his palms lightly, and suddenly bright divine light flashed in front of them. The 27 chess pieces shone simultaneously and flew all around him, creating a light screen. The blinding and beautiful divine light shot out of the light screen, like a matrix of the great path. Crack, crack, crack. One after another, the great path chess pieces were crushed and fell on the ground. The cultivators' expressions changed. They learned that the young person had actually preserved his strength and did not go all out. After all, one is disqualified if they run out of chess pieces. So it was natural for anyone to feel a little greed. "Cheeky bastard," roared an elder. "To actually preserve one's strength, even in a situation like this?" Vong. The light screen made from chess pieces surrounding the young man became larger. A vague yet frightening illusory shadow then began to loom in. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1927. Joining in? Chapter 1927. Joining in. The 27 chess pieces seemed like they had merged into one. Golden divine light radiated from the chess pieces, and an unparalleled illusion emerged. The chess pieces moved forward, and it felt as if a huge pagoda had arrived, crushing the enemy. Bang bang. The other chess pieces used to attack the young man were crushed into nothingness. The young man waved his finger, and the 27 chess pieces flew and dashed all over the place in a frenzy. Sounds of chess pieces cracking and breaking filled the air. All the great path chess pieces of the other 8 cultivators had been turned into dust. The unparalleled illusion towered over everyone with a tinge of condescension. This competition of the great paths ended without a hint of suspense. The young man achieved an overwhelming victory and crushed his opponents. Furthermore, of the 27 chess pieces he used for the attack, none were destroyed. Among the 36 chess pieces, 35 remained. Congratulations! After the battle, the Eastern Deity Island host deity congratulated the young man. She then continued, "You can wait on the side, and we will enter the Eastern Deity Gate later together." Okay. The young man nodded. With a flash, his body disappeared. He moved swiftly to the side of the Eastern Deity Gate. There was an empty penthouse over there. So the young man went there. After that, he crossed his legs and sat down before continuing with his cultivation. Invincible, thought many practitioners standing in front of the chessboard. No one could even threaten the young man. The result was splendid. He only lost 1 chess piece. They wondered if someone else had been able to do this before. At that time, the Eastern Deity Island's deity host spoke again. Who else? As soon as she finished asking, someone immediately strode forward towards the chessboard. He landed one of the 6 locations on the chessboard. The next moment, 36 great path chess pieces appeared and hovered around his body. "It is the young city lord of Wuxiang City," said someone with a surprised expression. Wuxiang City was one of the main cities on the Penglai continent. Wuxiang City's city lord was powerful. This young city lord's cultivation level was already at a frightening level. He was at least on the 6th plane. His combat ability was remarkable, and his talent was extraordinary. He chose to be the first to enter the stage, probably because he wanted to silence and stun the others, to make other powerful cultivators avoid him, to not compete with him. The young city lord of one of the strongest factions on the Penglai continent, Wuxiang City's young city lord Lu Qing, Shengguan Qiuya explained to Yi Futian. She continued, "It is very well known all across the Penglai continent. He is a lot more exceptional compared to Jun Qiuyan. Of course, the same goes for me. He is the heir of Wuxiang City. There is no doubt about it." The reason why Lu Qing chose to be the first one to enter is to pronounce that the second seat belonged to him. That means that you would also lose if you went up there. Asked Yi Futian. "That's the most likely case," replied Shengguan Qiuya. "If you're not in a hurry, avoiding him is a good option. While you are probably stronger than him, I am afraid that there may be other powerful characters in the later round. Once you expose your strength, you may become the target of the larger group and be surrounded. There might be some pressure." From Shengguan Qiuya's point of view, the overwhelming power that Yi Futian displayed was sufficient to defeat even Lu Qing. However, Lu Qing was still a strong opponent who might be able to pressure Yi Futian. "It looks like the young city lord of Wuxiang City has sealed the victory of this first round of battle," said someone. For a time, no one actually got on the board. "The young city lord of Wuxiang City, eh?" An elegant-looking young man flashed and appeared on the large chessboard. The man had a very handsome face and pure white skin. He was refined and elegant like a woman, a rare pretty boy. "Beiyuan continent." "Bai Gu," said the young man gently with a feminine yet dreary voice, sending chills down several people's spines. Named continents were never weak. Beiyuan continent was a continent of similar strength compared to Penglai continent. However, most people had never been to a place so far away before. So, in comparison, the name of Beiyuan continent was unfamiliar to most. However, some of those in major and powerful factions knew what the Bai family name of Beiyuan continent meant. The Bai family name of Baiyuan continent conquered the entire Baiyuan continent. Unlike the Penglai continent, they were the absolute conqueror. Even Lu Qing stopped to look at Bai Gu. He looked at Bai Gu with a rather solemn expression. However, he did not seem too bothered by it. If he did not encounter him here, he would still have to face him in a later battle. It did not matter that much to him. I knew that practitioners who came to cultivate and train in Eastern Deity Island this time would be strong. Wuxiang City dominates part of the Penglai continent, while the royal Bai family conquers the Baiyuan continent. This old man is nameless, but I would like to join in the fun. Another man stepped up. He was elderly, but his aura was domineering. He was a high-order Renhuang. This elder defeated many people who competed against him elsewhere, when encountering a great path opportunity. He is mighty. The expressions on some were solemn, and most were at least a little shocked. From the conversations and comments, they began to understand Bai Gu's weight. It was only the first battle. Were all the powerful cultivators rushing into the chess battle? Since that is the case, I will also join in the fun, said another voice. This time it was a woman Renhuang. She wore a long red robe, and had an air of elegance and glamour, as if she were a queen whom one should never offend. Blood Empress, Shengguan Qiuya said softly. Every practitioner from Penglai continent seemed to tremble after seeing her. What was going on? One after another, powerful characters had entered the stage. Were they rushing in to prove themselves in the chess battle? Could they not wait until the next round? Each of these practitioners who joined in was a powerful cultivator. They were proud. The mysterious young man from before was too powerful, and caused many to avoid him intentionally. That in and of itself had already violated their principles. Now the mysterious young man had already won. He would no longer take part in the battle. Would they avoid the battle again? Moreover, in this battle to pass through the gate, thousands of practitioners from various continents remained. It was truly a situation where powerful cultivators were as common as clouds in the sky. Who knew what kinds of opponents would appear in the next round? Every battle would have someone powerful. Particularly after the battle where the 9 victors had to battle again. So it was inevitable. They did not want to keep waiting to continue avoiding others. As such, the current situation was created. Since many powerful characters were already like that, there was nothing for the others to avoid. One after another, people began to step onto the chessboard. Not many could step into the core area of Eastern Deity Island in the first place. Most people knew their limits. They were only there for the experience. Since that was the case, why be picky? There was nothing to be afraid of. Moreover, if they were there to train, the higher the number of powerful characters, the better. Seeing the scene before them, many knew that this round of battle belonged to the few strong people. The rest were just there to participate. A few of them are very strong. Let's avoid this, Shengguan Qiuya said. However, just as she ended her sentence, Yi Futian strode forward and said, "Help me keep an eye on him." Leaving Jun Qiuyan behind, Yi Futian walked forward and moved onto the chessboard, leaving Shengguan Qiuya with a wide-eyed stare. This guy, however, she knew just how powerful Yi Futian was. In a 1-versus-1 situation, whether it was Lu Qing or Bai Gu, none of those on the board would defeat Yi Futian. However, she worried that if Yi Futian showed his true strength, he would be targeted. And in that situation, who knew what could happen? This guy also went up there. Many Penglai continents Renhuang also noticed Yi Futian. He was ringing Jun Qiuyan all over the place. So it was natural that people paid attention to him. In addition to that, practitioners at the cliff face relic earlier had amused expressions on their faces. So he is moving, they thought. Earlier, several extraordinary characters entered the stage, and most people thought that the winner would be one of them. However, when Yi Futian emerged, they knew that the ultimate victor would be Yi Futian. Among them, one person said with confidence, "It looks like the victor of this battle is decided." The victor is decided? Lu Qing, the Blood Empress, Bai Chu, these are all powerful people. I would assume it is still very much up in the air, no? Someone replied. "They will not win," answered the guy who spoke earlier. He glanced at the other person with a profound smile. Huh? The person seemed perplexed and asked, "Then who do you think will be the victor?" "Him." The guy pointed at Futian, which led to a lot of people looking at him. Futian, with his white hair, wore a white outfit. His aura and demeanor were definitely extraordinary, devilishly handsome. Futian's face could be regarded as handsome as Baigu, if not even more so. For a short time, he definitely attracted the gazes of many people. However, to claim that he could defeat all the strong characters on the board? It was still a questionable remark, to say the least. Of course, since someone did make that claim, it meant that he was definitely quite exceptional in some areas. So, who was this person? On the chessboard, Futian landed in a location. Instantly, 36 chess pieces appeared and hovered around his body. It was as if they were created from a spell of the Matrix. It was quite incredible. Futian injected his divine consciousness and power of the Great Path into the chess pieces. Then the next moment, the chess pieces began buzzing and emitting whooshing noises. The will of the Great Path began to emanate from the chess pieces. It seemed very natural. Then Futian frowned. He felt as if someone had fixed their eyes on him. He raised his head. On the chessboard, someone on his side decided to start his attack. 9 chess pieces rushed over towards. The chess pieces contained an extreme power of the thunder. They transformed into the 9 beams of the light of thunder and flew straight toward Futian. The 9 beams of light of the Great Path of Thunder shot at Futian. Futian raised and waved his arms. Immediately after, a chess piece flew out and drew a perfect and beautiful curve that transformed into a sword will. The sword will directly pierce through the opponent's 9 chess pieces, destroying every single one in an instant. The 9 chess pieces fell. The practitioner looked at Futian. In front of Futian, the only thing left was the frightening aura flowing from that chess piece. He only used 1 piece to defeat his 9 pieces. On the chessboard, several others turned their eyes toward Futian. This guy also seemed very strong. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1928. All of you together. Chapter 1928. All of you together. The key to winning in the chess battle was the strength of one's great path and their law power. The level of the power of the great path contained within every chess piece was the same. The person lost 9 chess pieces to Yi Futian's chess with the great path of the sword. Clearly, his power of the great path of thunder was far inferior to Yi Futian's power of the great path of attack. The expression on the face of the person who attacked Yi Futian changed slightly. Then Yi Futian pointed his finger toward the sky. The next moment, 9 chess pieces appeared at the same time. Each of the 9 chess pieces contained an incredibly powerful sword will. Moreover, every sword will seemed to be slightly different. Amidst the chess battle, they shook intensely while making crisp whooshing sounds. Go! Yi Futian waved his palm. In an instant, the 9 chess pieces flew toward the Run Huang who attacked him before. Feeling the sword aura hidden with the chess pieces, the practitioner's expression changed. His remaining 27 chess pieces flew over and transformed into a giant roaring thunder beast. Surrounded by the chess pieces, the illusion of a daunting thunder beast emerged. It devoured the sky and charged straight towards Yi Futian's chess pieces. Bzzzt bzzzt. Sharp deafening sounds filled the air. The 9 great path of the sword chess pieces were devoured directly, and they vanished before everyone's eyes. However, in just an instant, the sword will pierce through the giant thunder beast and headed straight toward the practitioner. Seeing the incoming sword will whistle over, the practitioner quickly raised his arms in an attempt to block. Vong! The chess pieces drew another beautiful curve and turned around. The power of thunder on the chessboard disappeared, and the aura from the 27 chess pieces disappeared as well. Apart from that, the practitioner also used his own powers. The destruction of one's chess pieces, or the utilization of one's own power in the match meant one's elimination. Then looking at Yi Futian's side, his 9 chess pieces were still buzzing and hovering in front of him. They were still in perfect condition. Complete victory. All the cultivators present were slightly shocked when they saw the scene unfold before them. While a victory was common, Yi Futian eliminated his opponent in the first battle of this round without losing anything. That strength was definitely uncommon, and it made even more people pay attention to him. Earlier, someone made the bold claim that there would be no suspense to this battle. Yi Futian would be the winner. Many thought that it was simply due to boasting. Now, it looked like this white-haired Runhuang's strength was indeed quite overwhelming. Perhaps he really was worthy of being considered a winner of this battle. At that time, multiple chess pieces began to move and flew all over the gigantic chessboard. The other cultivators had also started to move. The chess pieces of Lu Qing, the young city lord of Wuxiang City, danced in front of him. It was not one by one, or perhaps in a group of 9. Instead, all 36 of his chess pieces flew out at the same time. They converged and created a giant axe. It was also filled with a violent power of the great path of thunder. It was also accompanied by a frightening dark gold airflow, which caused crackling sounds that filled the sky. 36 chess pieces flew into the sky before slashing down at a person in front of him. The person's expression changed after sensing the power of the attack. 36 chess pieces danced and converged into an unbreakable spear before clashing against the descending chess pieces coming from the sky. Clang! The thunder battle axe slashed downward, splitting the opponent's spear into 2, and the accompanying chess pieces into smithereens. Such a potent attack. The hearts of many cultivators trembled. Moreover, Lu Qing used all 36 of his chess pieces in his attack. He did not leave any space for himself at all. If his attack had failed to defeat his opponent, and his chess pieces were restrained, it would be game over for him. Or if someone else had used the opportunity to sneak an attack on him, and forced him to use his own strength to block it, he would also be eliminated. It was incredible confidence. Very few use all 36 of their chess pieces to initiate an attack. Bai Gu, the Blood Empress, and the powerful cultivators also started making their moves one after another. The chess pieces in front of Bai Gu danced, twisted, and turned while a chilly and frightening aura sealed the sky around him, creating a great path of ice-sealed domain. Everything came from those chess pieces. Even when other chess pieces tried to attack him, it was difficult to get through this ice-sealed Great Path domain. At the same time, the twisting and turning chess pieces also converged and created a formidable giant ice dragon. Bearing its claws and teeth, it breathed at a person in front of it. Its breath turned the air cold. The opponent wanted to initiate an attack. He poured his power of the Great Path into his chess pieces, but the chess pieces were sealed with ice in front of the dragon's breath, turning into ice. The chess pieces no longer seemed to have any strength. What incredible frost will! Someone watching the battle outside the chessboard exclaimed after seeing the power of the ice seal. He then said, "Everyone battling on the chessboard is on the same level. It is easier to determine the strength of one's Great Path. This chessboard matrix is truly an idea from a genius. Anyone who emerges as the victor must be the one with the strongest potential." In another location, the Blood Empress attack turned into a crimson-red light. Crimson roses seemed to appear everywhere her chess pieces passed through. Under the beautiful outer appearances laid frightening crimson lightning that destroyed everything. Apart from them, several others also displayed formidable strength. However, Futian, the young city lord of Wuxiang City Lu Qing, Bai Gu, and the Blood Empress were able to defeat their opponents without losing any of their chess pieces. It was as if the competition between them had already begun. None wanted to fall behind, and one was stronger than another. "Let's work together." The other participants transmitted their voices to each other. Lu Qing, Bai Gu, and the Blood Empress were all very powerful. There was no way they could win. Moreover, the white-haired Renhuang's Great Path chess pieces were also incredible, and were a great threat. If they fought alone, they would have no chance. Close to Futian, several Renhuang initiated their attacks at the same time. Chess pieces flew towards Futian from 3 directions. From the front, beams of golden light of the Great Path flashed. The chess pieces each converged into a tiny golden cauldron. 36 tiny cauldrons formed surrounded an area and charged towards him. From another direction, strands of sharp sword auras flew towards Futian. From the last direction, Great Path chess pieces turned into a golden light that flew across the sky and shot straight at Futian. The intention was to bypass Futian's chess pieces and directly attack his person, to force him into making a move. Vong! The chess pieces around Futian's body started dancing at the same time. They hovered and circled his body. Multiple powerful sword wills flowed around the area and created a great path of the sword domain that spread outward. All 36 tiny cauldrons descended at the same time. When they entered the sword domain, crisp cracking sounds could be heard. In a single moment, the cauldrons transformed from chess pieces were crushed into pieces. At the same time, the other attacks also arrived. However, the conclusion was the same. The moment their chess pieces entered the sword domain created by Futian's chess pieces, they would be directly destroyed. Their attacks looked like suicide attacks. Many became speechless after witnessing this. Was the gap between their great paths so great? Moreover, even if they were using the same great path of the sword, their strengths were on completely different levels. The other battles were similar. Lu Qing and Bai Gu were also clearly on another level. However, at that time, Lu Qing encountered a very powerful opponent. It was the elderly man who had entered the chessboard just a little bit after him. In that battle, the old man got rid of 9 of Lu Qing's chess pieces. So he was left with only 27 pieces. The Blood Empress lost 3 chess pieces in her battles. Only Bai Gu was like Futian and did not lose a single chess piece. They were undamaged. However, this could be due to the opponents they faced. As the battle raged on, the number of people left decreased substantially. As predicted by the crowd, only 4 people remained on top of the chessboard: Futian, Lu Qing, Bai Gu, and the Blood Empress. Coincidentally, they stood in 4 different locations. Futian stood near Bai Gu while the Blood Empress was closer to Lu Qing. The 4 of them fell silent for a moment as they examined each other. Lu Qing had the least amount of chess pieces left. It was still 27 pieces. The elder from earlier took down 9 chess pieces in his violent attack, formed by 36 chess pieces. It was incredibly difficult. However, in subsequent battles he did not lose even one. So among the four, who would go next? You go down. At that time a voice emerged. It was Baigu's voice. He was rather similar to Yi Futian in a way. They were both very handsome. Their handsomeness was more feminine due to their cultivation styles. Yi Futian was affected by the power of Yin, which caused him to carry a more feminine and somber air around him. Baigu also similarly cultivated in the power of ice. Perhaps it was due to their similarity. Baigu noticed Yi Futian first, and decided to eliminate him. Yi Futian's eyes lit up. He glanced at Baigu. Baigu's eyes were cold. A gaze would have been enough to make one feel cold. The three of you should fight first and decide a victor, replied Yi Futian. He did not continue looking at Baigu. Hidden within his plain and calm tone was a sense of arrogance. This made the pupils of the others shrink as their faces distorted. Did he mean that he wanted the three of them to fight first and decide a victor before fighting him? It was as if the three of them were not worth his attention. Baigu also looked perplexed. He and Yi Futian had all of their chess pieces. That was why he chose to eliminate Yi Futian first. However, unexpectedly the guy was even more outrageous than him. An air of blood-like beauty and charm surrounded her, dissuading people from touching her. The young city lord of Wuxiang City also looked at Yi Futian. He had the least chess pieces left, so the situation was disadvantageous for him. There was also no way he would let another person reap the benefits of a battle he was involved in. At that moment, Yi Futian seemed to have angered everyone. After seeing that all three of them had shifted their gaze to look at him, Yi Futian remained calm and casually said, "Well, if that's the case, all of you together. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters." Chapter 1929. Not too shabby yourself. Chapter 1929. Not too shabby yourself. Three people together? Everyone gazed at Yi Futian in silence. Even though someone had earlier predicted that Yi Futian would be the ultimate winner, and had rated him highly. Which among the other three was not a genius with monster-like strength? Wuxiang City's young city lord Lu Qing, Baigu from Beiyuan Continents by clan, and the Blood Empress. Three extremely powerful cultivators. Even though Lu Qing lost 9 chess pieces, that was because his opponent was too strong. As for Baigu, he was like Yi Futian, and up until that point, had kept all 36 of his chess pieces. The three of them did not seem any weaker than Yi Futian. However, at that moment, Yi Futian actually asked the three of them to team up and face him together. Just what kind of arrogance was that? The three of them were also stunned briefly after hearing Yi Futian's statement. They looked perplexed. Earlier, Yi Futian said something crazy, which was to decide a victor among themselves first. That was understandable. However, later, Yi Futian asked the three of them to team up and fight him. It was no longer just crazy. It was extreme hubris and arrogance. You know you're going to be eliminated. That's why you want it to seem more heroic, is that right? Baigu asked gently. The three of them had come to some agreement, which was to eliminate Yi Futian first. So they wondered if it was because Yi Futian knew that he would lose that he intentionally said this. It looked like this was certainly a possibility. After all, they had already decided that they would get rid of Yi Futian first. Moreover, on the chessboard matrix, the worst outcome was to be eliminated. Even if one were excessively arrogant, there were no other more severe consequences. Yi Futian glanced at Baigu. He raised his hand. Then, in an instant, chess pieces began hovering in front of him. There were a total of 9 chess pieces. Every chess piece contained a buzzing sword will. Apart from the sword will, a frightening Yin aura also oozed out of the chess pieces, seemingly freezing the air around them. If you say that is the case, then so be it. Just as Yi Futian finished speaking, the 9 chess pieces flew away and transformed into 9 sword wills that shot toward Baigu's location at the same time. Looks of surprise hung on the faces of many onlookers. Yi Futian only released 9 chess pieces against Baigu? Baigu looked at Yi Futian. All 36 chess pieces around him started to move. The frost will engulfed the area around him. The 9 sword wills arrived in an instant. As if a frightening bolt of lightning infiltrating, the frost will strengthened, the sword wills pierced pieces in front of Baigu spun and after danced. Entering his domain, while a divine giant frost dragon released an icy breath body, filled with an enormous amount of frost, that targeted Yi Futian's chess pieces. As that occurred, the sword will of the 9 chess pieces turned into a straight blade of light that emitted an even colder aura. The aura caused the surrounding frost will to freeze. The breath of the giant frost dragon was also frozen in place. Even the giant frozen dragon's movement began to slow. Many people looked surprised. However, before they could regain their bearings, the blade of light shot through and caused the body of the giant frost dragon to disintegrate bit by bit as it turned into nothingness. The 36 chess pieces were also destroyed. Vong. The chess pieces which had transformed into a sharp sword hovered in front of Baigu. It had stopped attacking. Baigu's gaze remained fixed. A powerful frost will emanated from his body as he stared at the floating chess pieces. At that moment, all his previously displayed confidence had vanished. 9 chess pieces had transformed into a sword that instantly destroyed all 36 of his chess pieces. It was a complete and instantaneous defeat. His earlier words still rang in his ears. Now it seemed a little painful to hear them. Yi Futian was feigning arrogance, so that he could lose more heroically? No. The truth was that he, Baigu, could not even take one hit. All the other practitioners also focused their attention on him. Baigu, the Bai clan genius from the Beiyuan continent, had utterly lost in this battle. The proud and insufferably arrogant attitude Baigu had been defeated in an instant, when faced against the white-haired Ren Huang, who was just as handsome as he was. The white-haired Ren Huang did not lose a single chess piece. No wonder he dared to make a statement as bold as asking the 3 of them to attack together. With the strength that he had displayed, he certainly had the right to do so. He was able to take care of Baigu with just 9 chess pieces. So, what about the young city lord of Wuxiang City, Lu Qing, as well as the Blood Empress? Was it going to be the same? Were 9 chess pieces sufficient? Weird expressions hung on the faces of many when that thought crossed their mind. They looked toward Lu Qing and the Blood Empress. They could see the 2 of them staring straight at Yi Futian. It was clear that they were also stunned by Yi Futian's earlier attack. From what they felt, Baigu was not weaker than either of them. However, he suffered an instantaneous defeat when facing Yi Futian. Would they be able to withstand Yi Futian's next attacks? They would soon find out. Yi Futian waved his hand, and this time, 18 chess pieces rose into the air. Separated into 2 sides, 9 pieces on each side. The scene prompted many outside the chessboard to look surprised. Was he going to fight the other 2 at the same time? As he said earlier, he was going to fight the other 3 powerful cultivators all by himself. 18 chess pieces spun and flew out. They transformed into sword wills, just like the sword will attack used against Baigu earlier. There was not an inch of difference. As long as it was strong enough, one skill was enough to break through tens of thousands of spells. There was no need for Yi Futian to make any changes. Rumble. A frightening thunder roared across the sky. Lu Qing roared. His finger pointed forward toward the sky, and a thunder battle axe slashed downward to clash against the sword silhouette that had just converged. In another direction, the Blood Empress' beautiful and alluring body moved as she danced. Crimson roses emerged and created an ocean of blood that devoured everything, including the sword flying towards her. The swords pierced through the 2 attacks almost at the same time. The crowd could only see the blades of light pass through the battle axe and the crimson roses before turning back into a straight ray of light that left an incredibly bright and beautiful divine light in its track. The blade of light passed, and the chess pieces turned into dust one by one. Only the 18 chess pieces which had transformed into the blades remained. Lu Qing and the Blood Empress face distorted. The reason was not that they felt wronged or ridiculed, but that they had suffered a crushing defeat. They were all incredibly arrogant people. Earlier, the appearance of a mysteriously powerful cultivator made them skip several battles to avoid him. This had already created some thoughts on their minds. Now they stepped up and entered this battle, but they still faced such a crushing defeat. It affected their self-confidence significantly. Were the paths that they cultivated so weak? As they thought of this, the light in Lu Qing and the Blood Empress' eyes dimmed. As for those watching the battle, some gasped while others were in shock. Too strong. Earlier, some cultivators actually thought that the winner of this battle would be one of the three, Bai Gu, Lu Qing, or the Blood Empress. They would never have expected someone so strong would appear and completely crush the three of them. It was just like what one person predicted earlier. The victor of the battle was already decided. It was not one of the three participants that they favored. Rather, it was the white-haired Ren Huang. Shengguan Xiuya was also speechless. It looked like she still underestimated Yi Futian's strength. His great path was not on the same level as others. Perhaps the mysterious cultivator was the only one who was on a similar level. Yi Futian saw that the Blood Empress and Lu Qing were still staring at him. It was as if they had not yet recovered from that unexpected defeat. So he said, "Don't take it to heart. If it were anyone else, the result would have been the same." Hearing Yi Futian's words, the expressions on the face of many onlookers changed. However, none could say anything in response. He did, after all, instantly defeat three amazingly talented and powerful cultivators. No matter what he said, he was in the right, and no one could rebut him. Yi Futian had the right to be proud and arrogant. If someone were to say something like this to the Blood Empress or Lu Qing on a normal day, the two would probably have gone berserk. However, at that moment they felt nothing. They only glanced at Yi Futian in silence. They hoped that what he said was the case. It was that the white-haired Ren Huang was too strong, and not their great path being too weak. "I am humbled. I look forward to your future performance," said Lu Qing. After that he exited the chessboard. The Blood Empress stared at Yi Futian with a profound look with her charming eyes. Then she also left. She would see whether Yi Futian would also be just as powerful in the subsequent battle. The battle ended, and Yi Futian obtained a complete victory. There was not even a tinge of suspense. The scarier thing was that he did not lose a single chess piece. He walked towards the stone platform on the side. If he could maintain his 36 chess pieces in the upcoming 9-way battle, he would be even stronger than the mysterious cultivator from earlier. Now that was something one would look forward to seeing. How do you guys know he would win? Someone asked the guy who predicted that Yi Futian had already secured victory. In the battle at the cliff face earlier, he defeated all the cultivators from Penglai Continent's Jun clan. Did you not see that he has already incapacitated the young master of the Jun clan, Jun Xiuyan? He took that great path opportunity, and the cliff face collapsed. How could someone like this not win? The person spoke with slanted eyes. He spoke as if everything was in his grasp, as if the one who won was him. Regardless, the people around him were stunned after hearing his words. Was he that strong? He took the great path opportunity, and the cliff face collapsed because of him. Many people looked at Yi Futian, who sat on the platform. Yi Futian sat there quietly cultivating. He did not look at the people underneath him. The reason why he showed such overwhelming strength was because he wanted to garner the attention of the Eastern Deity Island. This was to respond to unforeseen events about to take place in the Eastern Deity Island. In front of the Eastern Deity Gate, the mysterious cultivator opened his eyes. He glanced at Yi Futian and said, "You're not too shabby." Yi Futian raised his head and looked over after hearing that. He calmly locked eyes with the young man. This young man was the most talented person with the strongest potential that he had seen since coming to Eastern Deity Island. Of course, there was still some gap between the two of them. "You're not too shabby yourself," Yi Futian replied with a smile. The young man's pupils shrunk slightly. Then he smiled and nodded in response. "If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.